Hey everybody, John Skiba here. I am a bankruptcy attorney in the state of Arizona, and I'm also the founder of the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going to talk about 3 of the pros and 3 of the cons of filing bankruptcy in a post-COVID-19 world. But if this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, please click subscribe, check on that little bell. That way you'll be notified each and every week when I put out a brand new video that'll help you deal with your serious debt problems. All right, let's talk about bankruptcy and debt issues. I'm recording this post-COVID-19. I guess we can call it post-COVID-19 in about mid-2022. So we're dealing with, we've been dealing with COVID now for a couple of years. We're starting to see the economy really struggle here in the United States, and particularly in Arizona, where I live. We have a lot of inflation. We're dealing with a lot of housing issues. And so a lot of people are kind of considering, what are my options? And one of those options, if it's bankruptcy, it's something you really need to have a sound understanding of what some of the benefits and what some of the downsides are to it before you jump in. So with that in mind, I want to talk about 3 of the pros, 3 of the good things about filing for bankruptcy, and then 3 things that you need to consider that might cause a negative consequence to the filing of bankruptcy. All right, let's talk about the first one. The first pro, the first good thing that for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing is that as soon as you file the case, the court enters something called the automatic stay. This is an automatic order. It's automatic. It comes to my office via, we can download it from the court's website as soon as we file a bankruptcy court, and it's an order from the judge that stops all collection efforts against you. So if you're getting your wages garnished, if your house is up for foreclosure, if you just want to stop all the collection calls and letters and things like that, as soon as you file for bankruptcy, the judge in your case will issue an order, they'll send it out to your creditors, and it stops everything, stops it immediately. And so particularly I see this with people who are dealing with wage garnishment issues. This is one of the most powerful parts of the process, is you can finally stop that process, get a little bit of breathing room, and kind of figure out how you're going to deal with things going forward. So the first benefit is the automatic stay. The second one is really what most people file Chapter 7 bankruptcy for. That is the discharge of unsecured debts. Now, unsecured debts are debts that don't have any collateral or property attached to them. The most common unsecured debt is credit card debt. Medical bills are considered unsecured. Now, there are some unsecured debts that typically don't go away in bankruptcy. It's usually things, what we call domestic support obligations, like if you owe alimony or child support, those typically will not be discharged in your bankruptcy. Student loans are often not discharged, and most taxes. Now, if your tax debt, if it's income tax, just regular run-of-the-mill income tax, and it's at least 3 years old, there may be a possibility that some of those debts will go away, but that's something you need a bankruptcy attorney to evaluate to determine if that's if that's something that's going to be possible in your particular case. So the discharge of that unsecured debt is the second really big thing, as far as a positive thing in filing for bankruptcy. Now, the third thing is really the fresh start that a Chapter 7 bankruptcy offers. I know it's a little cliche. You hear a lot of it with advertisements from bankruptcy attorneys like myself, but it really is. I mean, it's something where you kind of get a do-over when it comes to getting rid of that debt. A lot of people that I meet with and a lot of my clients, they've just been dealing with some of these debt burdens for a long time. It used to be in the old days that the debts would eventually go away. With the advent of things like junk debt buyers, sometimes they call it zombie debt, that just seems to go on forever. It's very difficult to get that fresh start. Bankruptcy is one of those ways to get it done. Now, filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, there are some big benefits to it, but I want to discuss 3 of the downsides to it, 3 of the cons to filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The first one is obviously the credit hit. For a lot of my clients, they've been dealing with debt issues for a long time. Bankruptcy is usually not the first thing that people jump into, but because of that, their credit has often already taken a pretty big hit. But regardless of where your credit score is, filing bankruptcy is going to have an initial, hit to the credit. You're going to see a drop in the credit score. The higher your credit score is, the bigger drop you're going to see. However, people recover from that more quickly than they anticipate. While it will stay in the public records section of your credit report for 10 years, most people recover as far as their score goes surprisingly quick, usually within 12 months. Mortgage loans with normal interest rates start being available right around 18 to 24 months. Like FHA will do a mortgage loan 2 years after a filing. VA will also do that. You'll see other lenders around 3 years, and some even as far as 4. But I have had clients get regular mortgages as short as 18 months after the filing of a Chapter 7 case. Car loans and credit cards, for good or for bad, they're going to be available almost immediately. You'll see as soon as you file your bankruptcy case with the court, you'll start getting advertisements for car loans, advertisements for credit cards. You're just going to have bad interest rates early on, and they will get better as you move forward. So the credit hit is something that I don't sugarcoat it. You know, there's a big hit there, but a lot of times it's not as bad as people think as far as going forward, and it's definitely not 10 years of no credit. Second downside to filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is you could lose assets. The idea behind a Chapter 7 is we're going to get rid of all of that unsecured debt. We're going to give you that fresh start that it talks about. The trade-off is a bankruptcy trustee is going to be assigned to your case. They're going to review the assets and determine if anything can be sold with the proceeds given to your creditors. Now, most things are protected. There are laws called exemption laws in each state and even on the federal level that protect most things. Most people have heard of like the homestead exemption. For example, in Arizona, where I practice law, right now it protects up to $250,000 of equity in a home is protected in a bankruptcy. Things like cars, 401ks, IRAs, household goods, firearms. There's all kinds of protections that you have if you file for bankruptcy in Arizona or in other states. It does vary from state to state as far as the dollar amount, so that's something you need to talk to a bankruptcy attorney in your specific location to find out exactly what's protected and what's not. But if there are non-exempt assets, so for example in Arizona, if you own a boat and it's owned free and clear, you don't owe any money on it, the bankruptcy trustee could seize it, sell it, and give the money to your creditors. So that's one of those things you're going to have to weigh, particularly if you have a lot of assets. You need to talk to an attorney, figure out if they're exempt, if they're protected or not. And if they're not, you're going to have to look to whether you want to sell it before you file for bankruptcy or just be okay with that asset being liquidated as part of the bankruptcy process. Now, the third issue that can come up in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy are what we call preferential payments or fraudulent transfer issues. And these things, they're not fun to deal with. But what they are, a preferential payment is, let's say you owe money to a family member, like your mom and dad, or your brother, or your sister, and you've been making monthly payments on that for quite a long time. If you file for bankruptcy, the court can go back and look. More accurately, the trustee will go back and look and see any payments you've made in the previous 12 months, and they can claw those things back. This is particularly true if you paid a big lump sum. I often will have people tell me in their consultations, hey, I owe my parents $5,000. I just got this big tax refund. I'm just going to pay them off so I don't have to worry about them in the bankruptcy. And then I would say, don't do that. Stop right there. Because if you pay off a family member that you owe money to, or even if you've been making those monthly payments, it's possible for the bankruptcy trustee to go claw that money back and distribute it evenly amongst all of your creditors. It's called a preference because the idea is the law is saying you can't prefer your family members over other creditors. We've got to get that money back and treat all creditors exactly the same. Along those same lines is something called a fraudulent transfer. The fraudulent transfer is, and I should say this, it sounds way worse than it is. Most fraudulent transfers, there is no intent to defraud anyone. But the law says if you transfer an asset out of your name in the 2 years prior to filing for bankruptcy, and you transfer it without getting any kind of value in return, the court can deem that a fraudulent transfer and then go back and get that asset, bring it back in, sell it, and give the money to your creditors. What this looks like for most people is an asset is transferred, maybe a boat. We'll use the boat example again. A boat is transferred to a family member or a friend, and then but there's no money given for it. You just assign the title over to them, and you're doing it for whatever reason. The court can then go back and get that. Now, if it's a legitimate sale and money actually changed hands and you sell it for approximately what it's worth, that's not an issue. The problem is when you're where it looks like you're getting rid of assets right prior to filing for bankruptcy and you're not getting any money in return, the court can deem that to be a fraudulent transfer. So that's something you got to be very careful of, and again, something to talk to a bankruptcy attorney about. So there's 3 pros and 3 cons in this kind of uncertain economy that we're dealing with right now in 2022 and kind of the post post-COVID issues. There's a lot of benefit to it. And I know, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I know nobody takes this decision to file bankruptcy lightly. It's important you have all the information that you can get and all the facts on the table when you talk to a bankruptcy attorney so that you make the best decision for you and your family. If you're finding yourself in a lot of financial struggle and heartache and dealing with a lot of debt problems that you don't know what to do with, and you live in the state of Arizona, you're in luck. I live here as well, and I'm a licensed attorney here in the state, and I'm happy to do a free consultation, sit down, go over what your financial situation is, and let you know if bankruptcy is the best option for you. You'll find my contact information as far as my phone number, my website, in the information below the video, and I'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks for watching today.